listening to The Donor Doctor Show, where your host James Newberry will help you improve the health of your fundraising. Now over to James.
Hello, this is The Donor Doctor again, and we're going to talk about recognition today. And we're going to talk about it in the context of museums, but I think this would apply for schools, a women's shelter, cancer hospital, or a variety of other nonprofits.
Any building, really?
Any building program, sure, absolutely. Now, there's 4 kinds of recognition. There's that are assigned at different giving levels, and we're going to use 2 of the museums that we were one of the first to go to. The one was recent was Museum of the Bible, and the African American Museum, which is part of the Smithsonian. Now, you went to both museums. You liked them, right?
Yeah, I thought they were both good museums. They were very engaging. I thought the Museum of the Bible used kind of a storytelling technique.
Yeah, I thought the interactive displays or exhibits were quite advanced.
Yeah.
And in the African American Museum, I was impressed by when you went down, you were going back in history. And it was kind of like going into a slave ship almost. It was kind of a metaphor for that.
Yeah.
They were both very good. I was not as impressed with their recognition, though. Their recognition was on the weekend. And when I say week, I did W-E-A-K, no. And I thought it was tilted too much to the rich. Now, I understand that because it's really a relative small number of people. When you're talking about the Museum of the Bible, it's $500 million. You're not going to raise that much money through direct mail. Maybe a couple $1 million. It's just the way it is. You're not going to be able to. So you're going to have. So it should tilt. Your recognition should tilt to the higher gifts. But let's talk about the 4 kinds of recognition, and why not have them all, not just for the rich. Now, here are the 4 kinds that I see. One is you can have your name etched in stone, etched in marble, or something that maybe appears that way. That would be for a major gift. There might be another visual display for a gift of $50,000. And the Museum of the Bible did that well. They had $50,000. I saw one of the guys was Rick Warren. He's that pastor in California, Purpose-Driven Life. He gave a gift of $50,000. I saw his name.
I thought that looked nicer.
Oh, did you really?
Well, number one, it was in a more prominent area.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
And second, I don't know, it just seemed nicer.
I like the name etched in stone with the Hobby Lobby people. I think their name's Green, and then there was Betsy DeVos, and there's people that gave gifts of $250,000 or more.
I voiced my concern there about even that wall was that they made some people's names bigger than others.
That's interesting,
which was ridiculous considering the amount of money that you had to donate just to be on this wall.
So you gave $500,000 and you feel like you're being dissed.
Yeah, I thought that was a bad idea.
It's interesting. I once was going to give to the Civil War Preservation Trust to preserve Vicksburg, an ancestor in that campaign. And for what I wanted to give, my name would be too small to really read. See, these are the kind of trade-offs about giving, how are you recognized? So they made some appear. If you gave $250,000, I probably wouldn't have distinguished it like they did. But, the truth is probably that family gave most of the money,
Well, then, they shouldn't be on the same wall. I don't know. Maybe.
Well, these are the kind of things that museums wrestle with. What to name people, founder, member, charter subscriber, whatever. There's a lot of names that people and debate. Sometimes you have different giving levels, and you don't want to take it away from the other one. But what they didn't have was a brick program. Now, bricks are usually on the low end. When you graduated from high school, I got you a brick for $100.
Yeah.
For West Point grads, I know this because when my dad died, they sent me this. So you get $500. And a lot of museums are $250. I've seen. So I would say $250 is the average. But I love a brick program. Bricks are so popular. I know Stuart McLean told the story about how they gave somebody a gift, their brick for the Green Bay Packers, and he came up to see it. He just wanted to see his brick. And, of course, the next level is to have your name in a book or an electronic kiosk. And you remember when we were, the grand opening of a museum we were working, how many people came up to see their name. They were really
much remember that.
They were really interested in that. And it wasn't just, one of the people interested was an Eisenhower. Okay, so it wasn't, people of different classes are interested in that because they want to be part of history. They want to be part of it. They know that their donation, usually to be in the book, was like $50, is a typical gift to be in one of these things. Mm-hmm. They know that that's not a huge investment, but still they get to be part of something bigger, and they enjoy seeing that. Stuart was also saying he was a consultant for one of these museums, and when they went to the gift shop, you could join then and see your name up on the electronic kiosk.
That did seem like a good idea.
It does. How much money? How much money does it cost? It's all fluff, Yeah. And it's interesting that the Museum of the Bible, and I don't mean to be critical, I think they did a great job, but church fundraising, they do this all the time. For my parents, they send out things, hey, when my mom's birthday, you give flowers. And of course, there's several people they give flowers for. It's a way to get more money, It's a great technique.
Yeah, especially a museum about the Bible, you think people are more willing to give money in memoriam to other people.
You would think.
Or even have things that you could put up candles or something like that. Or
sure.
rosaries and stuff.
A brick program. I think that, a lot of Christian fundraising, there's been some, a fair amount of scandals, as there has been in almost every other kind of fundraising too, I might add. And perhaps they just wanted to avoid that, But rather than thinking you're being a burden, another approach is to think, well, you're giving people an opportunity to take part in something great, ongoing. And to honor a loved one, show their recognition, show their love for somebody who's departed, maybe brought them into the faith. And so I think they're missing something. I'm all for recognizing the $250,000 and multi-million or even 50,000. Well, what about the brick guy? Somebody gives a $250, $500, or the person that can give $50 or $60. Now, I gave $60 for them. That's what they asked to be a member, and I got 6 tickets. I just think that they could have done more, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, you're probably more likely to go back in the future if you have a brick or if you have something substantial.
You're more likely to go. I think you're right. And that's the advantage of a direct mail program, is that the advertising, people would say, hey, I'm hearing about this, and people, the buzz, that's one of the advantages.
You can see my brick.
See my brick or see my... Now, I will say one thing that I have learned about recognition is you shouldn't mix a brick, which is going to sound average, going to be offered at $250, with the member at, say, $50, because it makes the just being in the book or electronic kiosk seem not as desirable. So that is one little tip I will give you. But I like all of these things, you should have all of these. Now, the African American Museum did have a direct mail program, but they did not recognize the $50 or the $100 donor. All the recognition was for like Oprah and other people that made massive gifts. And there's nothing wrong with that, but why not recognize the people on the lower? Maybe there's some reason that I don't know about. But all I'm saying is you're leaving money on the table.
It's true.
Now, there's another museum that is closing, and I've visited this year, but you've never visited the museum.
No, I've never been able to make it.
And it's in D.C., and it's tough in D.C. because you have all these free museums. You have the Smithsonian. The Museum of the Bible is it's free, although they ask for a charge, but they said they weren't aggressive in it for sure. But interestingly, I read an article that the museum might be closing, so I went, and which again proves the theory, scarcity, fear of loss, that people, if you think, well, I better see it now. And it had been open for 20 years, first in, I guess, Roslyn, and then it moved to, the mall.
I didn't know it was that old.
Yeah, I'd never gone, but I finally went. I didn't like it as much as the Museum of the Bible or the African American Museum, but it's still good. It's still definitely worth seeing. But I had an experience from 5 years ago. I met the fundraiser for the museum, and she said that they were thinking about doing a direct mail program, and I thought to myself at the time, well, I don't want. They didn't really have a good project. They're already up and running. The museum has been built. The best time to do a direct mail fundraising program is when you're building something, And the second is I wasn't sure who their audience is. Obviously, it's journalists, people in the news business. Perhaps a list like Amnesty International might work. Although I would say now, I think, with the Trump and some of the attacks on the media back and forth, that maybe there would be an audience for them. I don't know. Probably not enough to save them, to be candid. If you're raising $500 million, or if you need a huge amount of money, direct mail is probably not going to be able to raise that much of it. But you never know when you uncover somebody. You're not looking at all the people you could that you could upgrade, or extra visitors, that kind of thing too.
Well, isn't direct mail in that situation too? If you're in dire straits, it's also advertising.
It's advertising, and you're right. People would be more inclined to give if they thought you had a realistic chance of.
I learned that from your podcast.
That's right. Okay, somebody's listening. But it was interesting. My point with this is that a lot of times people, they don't act in a rush. They the boards, they take forever to decide something, and their moment passes. Now, there may have been a time, certainly for the Museum of the Bible, and I still think it could. They could have raised money while it was being built. It's a little harder now. The museum, their best time would have been while they were building it, And a lot of times people think, well, we'll do that at a different time. No, sometimes the door closes. So you really have to have a comprehensive strategy. And it's interesting, this again, how these museums are so good about interactivity and all the exhibits. You see excellence there, and in the fundraising you don't see excellence, at least on the lower end. You know what I'm saying?
I think that's people tend to forget the little things that matter.
Well, I think there's too much people special. There's a lot of specialization. So the event people don't know much about direct mail. The high end people don't know much about direct mail. So they're just, people have, their frame of reference may be off, from what they know to raise money, and they're correct. If you're talking about $500 million, you have to network. There's only so many people that are interested in what you're interested in and have the capacity to donate, $20 million, $10 million. 250,000. You're not getting it. But the thing is, the beauty of direct mail is you could offload it. You know what I mean? You could have somebody else do it. It wouldn't be taking up too much of your time. If you notice, when I go to these museums, I spend a lot of time in the gift shops. I'm looking at things differently.
Yeah, it was kind of annoying.
Yeah, it's kind of annoying.
I remember saying, "Why is he looking at all this junk?"
I'm just curious what they're selling, but they're leaving money on the table by not letting people. I mean, think about the profit margin in having your name in a book, or an electronic kiosk, or even a brick. There is some cost for the brick, but for what you're, there's a huge profit margin on that kind of stuff. And one of the things I learned about campaigns is they taught us was, even when people volunteered, have them give you $1. And there was something about when somebody gave you something, they were just more loyal. It's a weird thing, but they feel like they're part of it. You know what I'm saying? So that's what you want. You want people donating to you so they feel like you're a part of the group. It's a kind of a weird transformation.
Can I ask you a question
Sure.
about, did they have a collection box at the museum? Just a box?
No.
As at the exit?
No. I don't recall. I think the museum, they charge a fair amount. I think like $20 or something, which is, compared to free across the street.
You can get away with that at the Smithsonian's.
And they do have a decent gift shop, but no, they don't. And nor do they present it as kind of something that you would give money for, or at least enough, in my opinion.
Well, you could even make it for charity.
Sure. I mean, they certainly could raise money for. There's journalists around the world that are in prison, and they do talk about that kind of abuse, human rights abuses. So I mean, it's an interesting. I hope it doesn't close down, and I don't think this would have been enough to make a difference. I think it was a mistake to move from their headquarters, but when you see people making the mistake of not using direct mail, for example, or not cultivating any lower dollar donors, they're probably making other mistakes too. You know what I'm saying? So that is the problem. And I hope it doesn't happen with the Museum of the Bible that, if some of their bigger donors are not able to help anymore, that would be bad for them. Because then you need that base of support. Johnny, I want to thank you for being a guest on, our co-host, I should say, on the show for all this time. This will be one of our last times we're going to shut down the podcast, at least for now. Send me your email if you'd like to, if we resume. But anyway, I appreciate all your effort in here and going into these museums with me. I know you like them. And I noticed in the Museum of the Bible, you enjoyed reading all the Bibles. They had Bibles from every country or something like that?
Yeah, they had every single language with the Bible. And I was reading in some Kurdish Bibles.
And there was one that was interesting. It was like a Creole language.
It was Hawaiian Creole. And nothing against Hawaiians, but it was the most ridiculous thing I've ever read in my life.
I could understand it, though.
It was in English. Of course you can understand. They say it's a Creole, but it wasn't. It was just simplified English.
Well, it was slang.
Yes.
It was slang.
It was slang.
Okay, well, till next time. Bye.